I'm a 24-year-old guy, and I've been anticipating this situation for ages. Not wishing for it, just waiting, because I understood precisely what sort of individuals Margaret and Tom were. And I realized sooner or later they'd commit an act so inexcusable that I could at last cease acting like we were relatives. Thursday midday, I'm in the lounge at my job when my device vibrates. Message from Margaret. She informs me they've emptied my education savings, the full $18,000 for their 30th wedding celebration. Then she states I must provide an additional $3,500 for the camera person, or I'm excluded from joining. Then the true shock. She mentioned they never desired offspring, that I was a pity adoption they took in at age 3 since my natural guardians relinquished rights, labeling me flawed, contribute. Or they share the files digitally for all to view. Tom messages afterward. He informs me my birth record indicates mom was an addict, dad unidentified, inquires if I desire my colleagues viewing that. Claims the placement organization marked me as requiring extra care because I wouldn't cease wailing as a young child. They rescued me from group homes. I am indebted. All right, so we're barely half a minute into this, and these folks have carried out perhaps 4 separate offenses while also rushing through the most awful guardians in recorded time. Picture being so self-important, so utterly detached from the world that you believe menacing to openly shame your own offspring with their past wounds is a fair bargaining method for event photos. Fund our festivity, or we reveal your distressing beginnings to your workmates. That's not raising a child. That's what an antagonist does in a dramatic film before they face justice in the final part. And the nerve to label a young child flawed for weeping, infants wail. That's essentially their primary function. These individuals adopted an entire person and then passed 2 decades despising him for being alive, for requiring support. The standard for guardians is basically minimal, and Tom and Margaret arrived with digging tools. Here's what they were unaware of. I've doubted the adoption since I was 16, when I discovered documents in Tom's storage drawer searching for my identification number. I never mentioned it because challenging them meant forfeiting shelter, vehicle coverage, all I required to endure until I could depart. So I acted appreciative offspring while holding 2 positions during local schooling, switched to public university, earned my finance certification, relocated to my personal residence 11 months back. I preserved every odd remark they uttered. Each instance Margaret stated I was fortunate they selected me rather than a genuine infant. Each time Tom said the majority would have abandoned a youngster like me in the program. I possess a collection dating back 7 years. They believed they were extorting someone without resources. They were extorting someone who'd been readying for this. Wow, the sheer resilience here blows my mind. It's like he's been strategizing his freedom all along. This is what endurance appears like. This guy has been engaging in advanced strategy since he was 16, while Tom and Margaret were over there enjoying simple games, assuming they held all the control. 7 years of records. Holding 2 positions, obtaining his certification, securing his own space, never revealing his knowledge. That demands a degree of self-control and emotional awareness that most grown-ups never achieve. And here's the aspect that strikes me. He didn't pursue this from vengeful dreams. He did it because he lacked alternatives. When you're underage relying on folks who view you as an obligation they're recovering, you grasp swiftly that the sole exit is persistence. He constructed his getaway route 1 capture at a time while grinning at holiday meals. That's not vindictive. That's strategy. I captured images of all. Then I located the location they reserved, the elegant manor, and dispatched a note clarifying I was the rightful owner of assets used for their reservation. That those assets were withdrawn without approval, and I possessed proof of them confessing it. Include the captures. Dispatched it at 2:47 p.m. By 6 p.m. Margaret phoned, yelling, "What have you done?" The location is inquiring. They're halting the initial payment awaiting examination. You unthankful leech. After all we've given up. After we accepted you when no one desired you. I allowed her to yell. Then I stated serenely that $18,000 belonged to me. That savings was established in my name by Grandma Alina shortly after the adoption. Every report lists my name as owner. I already obtained my documents. She became silent. claimed I was distorting facts, that the funds were always for household costs, that they intended to inform me about the adoption at the appropriate moment. I informed her the moment was appropriate when she menaced to degrade me openly for additional funds. Then I ended the call. 3 hours. 3 hours from I'm going to manage this formally. 2. My whole scheme is falling apart, and I'm shouting at the individual I just menaced. Margaret truly thought she could coerce this guy in the AM and have him finance her decorations by evening. And I truly adore that her justification was, the funds were always for household costs. Lady, your wedding festivity is not a household cost for your offspring. That's similar to if I took my neighbor's vehicle and claimed, well, mobility was always vital to our community. The psychological contortions needed to perceive yourself as the injured party while actively performing monetary deceit and sentimental coercion. That's championship-level illusion. And we intended to inform you about the adoption at the appropriate moment. You mean when you required influence to extract money from him? That was the suitable moment. Explain it logically. Tom phoned next with his composed, logical tone. Stated Margaret was overwhelmed. Uttered things she didn't intend. We should discuss like mature people. I inquired if menacing to share my adoption files and dispatch my birth record to workmates was overwhelmed speaking. Extended silence. He stated that's not what occurred. I was removing things from setting. I informed him I possess captures stored in 3 locations. Then Grandma Alina messaged, Nathan, we must converse. Your dad says you're experiencing some sort of breakdown, issuing claims. Inform me what's truly happening. Here's the aspect. Alina doesn't know I'm adopted. Neither do my relatives, kin. Tom and Margaret concealed it from all for 20 years. Now they're depicting me as erratic. But that location contacted me back this evening. What they revealed alters everything about what Tom and Margaret really did with those funds. Revision arriving. See, this is the typical abuser strategy, and I need all to identify it because you'll meet individuals like this in your existence. Phase 1, perform something terrible. Phase 2. When faced, assert it was from setting or overwhelm or not what occurred. Phase 3. When proof appears, promptly reverse the tale and depict the sufferer as insane. Tom shifted from, let's discuss like mature people, to my offspring is having a psychological breakdown in the duration of one phone conversation because he understood he couldn't manipulate someone who possesses evidence, and the 20-year concealment. They hid the adoption from the whole extended kin, which means every single exchange, every festival, every commemoration, they were enacting this intricate falsehood while at the same time loathing Nathan for being the proof of it. That's not kin. That's a captivity scenario with superior adornments. Revision 1. So the location. The lady from the Elegant Manor informed me their complete reservation was $43,000, not $18,000, $43,000. The initial payment alone was $25,000, settled in 2 portions over the previous 4 months. My education savings was merely the initial portion. She couldn't reveal where the remainder originated, but she verified the owner name on the transaction matched mine for that first $15,000. They didn't merely empty my savings. They utilized me as their transaction method for months while organizing a festivity. I was evidently expected to finance and participate and be thankful for. I phoned Grandma Alina back Friday AM. She resides about 40 minutes distant and desired to meet face-to-face. I traveled to her home after employment. She's 71, still alert, resides solo since Grandpa Ian departed 6 years prior. When I arrived, she had beverages prepared and this expression on her face like she was preparing for something. I displayed her the messages, all of them. Recited them aloud when she struggled with her vision aids. She didn't utter anything for an extended period. Then she inquired if I knew about the adoption prior to Thursday. I informed her I'd known since I was 16 that I discovered papers in Tom's workspace, that I never mentioned it because I had no other place to go. She began weeping. Not boisterous, just silent drops. $43,000 for a wedding festivity while your offspring is consuming cheap meals and holding dual shifts to cover an education you could have supported. Let that settle with you for a moment. They could have altered this guy's whole path. No educational debts, no fatigue, no hardship. And instead, they selected fancy displays and camera experts and cite charges for a festivity honoring themselves, and then had the complete boldness to require he provide more and appear cheerful. The calculation here isn't solely about currency. It's about choices. Every dollar they expended on decorations was a dollar they determined their pride was worth more than their offspring's tomorrow. And Grandma Alina weeping silently. That's the noise of someone comprehending the offspring she nurtured became a beast she doesn't identify. 20 years of being kept unaware, and it emerges like this. Then she stated she established that education savings herself, deposited $2,000 when I was adopted, added funds every commemoration and holiday for 20 years. She thought it was protected until I reached 18. She inquired how they obtained entry. I informed her I didn't know yet, but I was going to discover. Then she revealed something that reshaped everything. She stated Tom never desired to adopt, that it was her suggestion, that she urged Margaret into it after Margaret had 3 losses and physicians said another attempt could end her. Alina located the placement organization. Alina covered the charges. Alina transported them to every meeting. Tom complied because his mom demanded, but he issued remarks for years about how it wasn't equivalent to having a true offspring. So that's the reason. 20 years of bitterness, because his mom compelled him into a kin he didn't desire. And Margaret followed his mindset because she faulted herself for not being able to produce natural offspring. I was a constant reminder of what she viewed as her defeat, and there it is, the decayed base this entire structure was constructed on. Tom never wanted to be a parent, got pressured into it by his mom, and instead of being mature and either committing or withdrawing, he chose option 3. Make a child pay for his own bitterness for 2 decades. And Margaret, look, I have compassion for pregnancy failures. That's crushing. But you don't get to project that crushing onto an innocent youngster who didn't request to be adopted. Nathan wasn't a substitute award. He wasn't a reminder of defeat. He was a youngster who needed affection, and instead got used as a sentimental target by 2 people who should have sought counseling instead of a placement organization. You don't get to adopt a person and then spend 20 years punishing them for not being the natural offspring you couldn't have. That's not raising. That's mental torment with additional layers. Alina inquired what I desired to do. I informed her I wanted my funds returned, and I wanted them to realize they couldn't menace me. She said she'd place some calls, that she wanted to grasp the complete monetary situation before resolving anything. Saturday a.m., my relative Sophia messaged me. She's Tom's niece. We matured together, fairly tight, until I relocated. She said she learned I was enduring something and inquired if I was fine. I asked her what precisely she learned. She said Tom phoned her mother, saying I'd been issuing extreme claims that I was pressured about finances and reacting harshly, that they were concerned about my psychological condition. He evidently recommended the kin provide me distance until I settled. I dispatched Sophia the captures too. She phoned me 15 minutes later. She was furious, but not at me. She said Tom always spoke about me differently than he spoke about her or her sibling. Small remarks at kin dinners about how I should be more thankful, how most youngsters in my circumstance don't receive the chances I received. She never comprehended what circumstance he meant until now. Then she revealed something that made my gut churn. Their wedding festivity attendee roster has over 200 individuals, extended kin, acquaintances, Tom's job associates, Margaret's reading group, all. They dispatched invites 3 weeks prior. The invites state the festivity is honoring 30 years of union and their path as guardians. They're planning to use me as part of their honor story, the pair who generously adopted a challenging youngster. And if I don't contribute or appear cheerful, they'll reverse that story and make me the unthankful offspring who deserted them. 200 individuals about to observe Tom and Margaret receive praise for being generous guardians. To the offspring they monetarily abused, sentimentally mistreated, and literally menaced to openly degrade that same month. They wanted Nathan there as a tool, standing in the side in a fine outfit, grinning for images so they could indicate him and say, "Look what we accomplished. We rescued this challenging youngster." Aren't we amazing? All while he's overwhelmed in educational debt, because they took his education savings to cover the festivity where they'd claim credit for nurturing him. The depths of self-absorption here are truly remarkable in the worst manner. They constructed a whole occasion around being honored for guardianship while actively performing offenses against their offspring. That's not inconsistent thinking. That's a total separation from the world. These folks don't view Nathan as an individual. They view him as a story element in the tale of their own bravery. Alina phoned me Sunday evening. She conversed with the financial institution about the education savings. What she discovered means Tom and Margaret have a far larger issue than a halted location payment. Revision 2. So here's what Alina discovered. When she established the education savings 20 years prior, she made herself and Tom shared overseers until I reached 18. Standard arrangement for a youth's account. But when I reached 18, oversight was supposed to shift to me. The institution dispatched forms. Tom intercepted them. He signed my name on the shift documents and retained himself as co-owner without ever informing me the account existed. I never knew I possessed that savings. They never referenced it. 4 years of holding 2 positions through schooling, accepting educational loans, consuming cheap meals. And they had $18,000 resting in an account with my name on it the whole time. Alina was enraged, not just about the currency, about the deception. She confronted Tom Monday a.m., traveled to their residence at 7 a.m. before he departed for employment. She informed me later that Tom attempted to justify it, said he was safeguarding the funds for when I truly required it, that I would have squandered it on something foolish at 18. When Alina inquired why he used it for a festivity instead of informing me about it, he said I owed them that much and more for nurturing me. He would have squandered it. Tom really stood there boldly and said his offspring would have squandered money on learning, while Tom was actively squandering it on displays and food service. The transference is so dense you could slice it with a blade. And this is the thing about folks like Tom. They will always possess a justification that makes them the champion and you the issue. He falsified his offspring's signature. That's a serious crime. That's identity deception. And his rationale was, you owe me for nurturing you. Sir, that's what guardians are expected to do. You don't get to present your youngster a bill for youth. You don't get to commit monetary crimes and call it safeguarding. The complete boldness to observe your offspring struggle for 4 years, while resting on money that was legally his, and then have the courage to say he would have squandered it. Tom, my fellow, you squandered it on a festivity that didn't even occur. Alina informed him she wanted the complete monetary details of the festivity expenses. Every supplier, every transaction, every source of assets. Tom declined, said it was none of her concern that she needed to cease interfering in his kin. Alina reminded him that she initiated that kin when she urged for the adoption he never desired. That's when Margaret became involved. She descended and started shouting at Alina about limits. About how they nurtured me and made all the concessions while Alina just issued payments and visited on festivals. She said Alina had no concept what they endured. That I was a tough youngster who never valued anything they did. That I was always searching for reasons to be the injured party. Alina departed. But before she did, she informed them both that she was altering her testament. Tom was her sole offspring. He was positioned to receive her residence and all in it, not any longer. Margaret shouting at a 71-year-old lady about limits, while Margaret is the one who took money, committed deception, and tried to coerce her grandson. The boldness is truly astonishing. And he was a tough youngster who never valued anything. Lady, you concealed his money and made him hold dual shifts while you organized a $43,000 festivity. What precisely was he supposed to value? The scraps, the sentimental control, the constant reminders that he wasn't really your offspring. Nathan spent his whole youth treading carefully around folks who despised his existence and still managed to obtain a certification, secure a position, and depart without destroying connections until they ignited the spark. And now Grandma Alina, the one who actually desired him in the kin, the one who supported his tomorrow, is severing Tom entirely. When your own mom selects your adopted grandson over you, perhaps it's time for some introspection. It hits hard realizing how deep the betrayal runs. Family should protect, not exploit. Tom phoned me that evening completely furious. He said I turned his own mom against him, that I was ripping the kin apart over currency, that I always had to make everything about myself. I informed him he ripped the kin apart when he menaced to share my adoption records digitally if I didn't pay him. He said that was just irritation speaking, that I should know they'd never actually do that. I inquired why I should know that. What in 20 years of being reminded I wasn't really his offspring should make me trust him? He didn't respond. Then he attempted a different method. He said the festivity was already settled, invites dispatched, kin traveling from distant states. If I continued pressing this, I'd shame everyone. I'd destroy bonds with individuals who had nothing to do with this. He inquired if that's really what I desired. I informed him what I desired was my $18,000 and an open confession that they'd try to coerce me using my adoption as influence. He chuckled, actually chuckled, said that was never going to occur, that no one would trust me over them, that I should consider my next action carefully. So I made my next action. Sophia and I spent Tuesday evening reviewing the festivity attendee roster. 212 individuals, 53 of them have open online profiles. Sophia's mom, my Aunt Linda, is tight with 11 of the attendees personally. Wednesday, Sophia informed her mom everything. Displayed her my captures. Linda phoned 3 of those 11 friends that same day. By Thursday a.m., Tom and Margaret's devices were sounding continuously. Attendees calling to inquire if the gossip was accurate. People who'd already purchased travel passes wanting to know if the festivity was still occurring. Then Margaret appeared at my residence. She was waiting in the lot when I arrived home from employment. No one would trust you over them. Tom said that aloud. He truly believed that his standing, his appearance, his 30 years of act was impervious. That he could falsify signatures, take money, menace his own offspring. And as long as he grinned at gatherings, everyone would side with him. That's not assurance. That's illusion, constructed on decades of evading consequences. And then, Nathan demonstrates to him precisely how incorrect he was. 1 relative, 1 aunt, 11 friends, and suddenly the calls begin. 200 attendees all inquiring, wait, is this accurate? The fragile structure didn't just tumble, it imploded. And it imploded because Tom overlooked the most crucial guideline. You can't outstory someone who possesses evidence. Evidence doesn't care about your standing. Evidence doesn't care how many greeting cards you dispatched. Evidence just remains there being factual, and eventually the fact locates its viewers. Concluding revision. Margaret was resting against her vehicle when I entered my parking area. She began speaking before I even opened my door, saying we needed to resolve this. That matters had progressed too far, that she never intended for any of this to occur. I inquired her what precisely she never intended to occur. The part where she took my money, menaced to shame me openly, or the part where the entire kin discovered she'd been deceiving about the adoption for 2 decades. She said I was distorting everything. That the funds were always for kin crises. That the festivity was a crisis because they'd been organizing it for 2 years. That Tom's position had been unsteady. The menaces were just her being frightened. She reacted impulsively when I started inquiring. I informed her that wasn't a clarification. That was a catalog of justifications for why she felt entitled to take from me and menace me when I resisted. The festivity was a crisis. I need everyone to really contemplate that declaration. A wedding festivity was a crisis, not a health emergency, not a residence blaze, a festivity. These folks have been organizing this honor of themselves for 2 years, and somehow that qualifies as a crisis that rationalizes taking from their offspring and menacing to reveal his adoption. The intellectual structure required to even articulate that sentence aloud, I truly cannot grasp it. And the menaces were just me being frightened. Frightened of what, Margaret? Frightened that your deception would be uncovered. Frightened that your sufferer might not finance his own degradation. Fear doesn't make you menace to share someone's private adoption records digitally. That's not impulse, that's plan. That's examining your offspring and thinking, what's the most hurtful influence I have? That's deliberate harshness disguised as urgency. She attempted another approach. Said they accepted a youngster no one desired. A youngster with recorded problems. A youngster whose natural mom signed forms saying she couldn't manage him. They provided me everything. Perhaps they weren't ideal, but they attempted. I informed her attempting doesn't include falsifying my signature to maintain control of my funds. Attempting doesn't include 20 years of making me feel like a load. Attempting doesn't include using my origins as a weapon against me. She began weeping, said I was ruining Tom's bond with Alina. That she was earnest about the testament, that Tom stood to lose the residence he matured in. Did I comprehend what that meant for their later years? I inquired if she comprehended what it meant for my tomorrow when I accepted educational loans because they concealed $18,000 from me, when I held dual shifts during exams, when I completed with debt I never required, then her concluding effort, if I halted this now, halted the gossip, halted Alina's testament alteration, they'd reimburse me all $18,000. Regular installments. We could advance beyond this. I inquired if open confession was part of that agreement, if they'd inform the attendees why the festivity was canceled, if they'd inform the kin they deceived about the adoption. She said that wasn't practical. I informed her to depart. We provided you everything. While making him hold dual shifts during exams because they concealed his funds. Perhaps we weren't ideal, but we attempted, while falsifying his signature on legal forms. You're ruining Tom's bond with his mom. Tom ruined that himself when he took from his mom's grandson. Every single sentence from Margaret's mouth in that lot was designed to make Nathan feel culpable for her repercussions. Not once did she truly express regret. Not once did she accept real accountability. It was we attempted and we were frightened. And consider our later years, your bond. When has anything ever been about what Nathan forfeited? And when he provided her the one clear route forward, open responsibility, inform the fact, she said it wasn't practical. Because the fact was never a choice for these folks. The only thing they were ever willing to forfeit was their offspring's welfare, never their appearance. The festivity was supposed to be Saturday. It's not occurring. Location retained their initial payment. Distant attendees absorbed their travel costs. Tom's sibling informed him not to reach her until he rectified things with me. Aunt Linda excluded them from holiday dinner. Alina completed her testament alterations yesterday. The residence goes to a protected fund for my advantage until I reach 30, then shifts to me. Tom receives nothing. Tom messaged me this AM, said I obtained what I desired, took his legacy, his festivity, his kin. He hopes I'm content. As far as he's concerned, he has no offspring. I responded, I know, because I've known that for 20 years. Now everyone else knows it too.